Look who wandered in. Get lost, Malik, before everyone remembers you were never welcome here.
Preston Hale stepped in front of him near the front steps of the frat house, blocking his path toward the driveway.
You hear me? This is our night, our crowd, our rules.
Malik stayed still.
I'm leaving.
Preston laughed and shoved 2 fingers into Malik's chest.
No, you're not. Not after coming in here like some street hero trying to scare people.
Malik's hands stayed open.
You need to move out of my way.
Or what? You'll hit me? Go ahead. Give everybody exactly what they're waiting for.
The crowd gathered around the yard went quiet. Malik didn't flinch. Preston smiled wider.
You're surrounded. One wrong move, and your whole life ends before sunrise.
Preston had no idea the quiet man he was cornering had spent years dropping brutal fighters before they even saw him move. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The bass from the Delta Sigma New House rattled windows 3 blocks away. Friday night on Birch Row meant chaos. Beer cans littered the sidewalk. Students stumbled between houses, red Solo cups in hand. The smell of cheap alcohol and barbecue smoke hung thick in the October air. Malik Turner pulled his beaten Honda to the curb. His phone buzzed again with the same text from 20 minutes ago. "Please come get me. I'm scared." He killed the engine. The denim jacket felt heavy on his shoulders as he stepped onto the sidewalk. His work boots crunched over broken glass. The fraternity house loomed ahead like a fortress of privilege. Red and gold banners hung from every window. Music pounded from speakers that probably cost more than his rent. Students packed the front yard. Most wore designer clothes that screamed money. They laughed too loud and drank too much. Phone cameras flashed constantly, capturing every moment for social media. Malik scanned the crowd. His jaw tightened when he spotted them. Jamal stood near the porch steps, surrounded by at least 8 fraternity brothers. The red and gold jackets formed a tight circle around his cousin. Even from 30 feet away, Malik could see Jamal's hands shaking. "Come on, pledge!" A voice boomed over the music. "It's just a little fun." The crowd pressed closer. Someone held up a phone to record. Others laughed and pointed. Malik moved through the party like a shadow. Students stepped aside without thinking. Something in his calm movement made people nervous. He kept his face blank, his hands loose at his sides. The fraternity brothers didn't notice him approaching. They were too busy enjoying the show. Preston Hale stood at the center of the circle. 23 years old, but carrying himself like he owned the world. His blonde hair was perfectly styled. His polo shirt probably cost $200. He smiled with practiced charm, the kind politicians learn young. "Look, Jamal," Preston said, his voice dripping with fake concern. "We're not asking for much. Just crawl across the lawn on your hands and knees. Bark like a dog. Show everyone you really want to be part of our brotherhood." Jamal's voice came out barely above a whisper. "I can't do that." "Can't?" Preston's smile turned cold. "Or won't?" The fraternity brothers laughed. A few pulled out their phones. The crowd grew larger, sensing drama. "It's tradition," Preston continued, spreading his arms wide for the cameras. "Every pledge does it. Unless you think you're too good for us?" That's when Malik stepped into the circle. "Jamal!" His voice cut through the noise like a knife. "Let's go home." The laughter stopped. Every head turned toward him. Malik stood 6 feet tall, lean but solid. His dark skin seemed to absorb the porch lights. There was something in his stillness that made people uncomfortable. Preston's smile widened. He sensed an opportunity. "Well, well, look who decided to crash the party." Malik ignored him. His eyes stayed on Jamal. "Come on, cousin. Time to leave." "Hold on there," Preston said, stepping closer. His voice carried that smooth confidence rich kids perfect in prep school. This is a private event. Members and invited guests only. The fraternity brothers moved slightly, tightening the circle. Ethan Royce emerged from behind Preston like a guard dog called to heel. 6'2" of muscle and aggression. Former wrestler, current bully. His hands were already clenched into fists. "Jamal's not going anywhere," Ethan growled. "Kid's got business to finish." Malik finally looked at Preston. His expression stayed perfectly calm. "My cousin wants to leave. We're leaving." "Your cousin?" Preston's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Funny. See, Jamal here begged us to let him pledge. Said he'd do anything to belong. Now his big cousin shows up to save him." He turned to address the growing crowd, phones recording every word. "Seems like someone's trying to ruin our tradition." The accusation hung in the air like poison. Malik felt the crowd's energy shift. Whispers started spreading. Phones pointed in his direction. Ethan stepped directly into Malik's path, blocking the walkway to the street. His chest puffed out like a rooster looking for a fight. "You heard Preston," Ethan said. "Private party. Time for you to bounce, Detroit." More fraternity brothers moved closer. The loose circle became a trap. Malik found himself pressed toward the concrete porch steps, surrounded on all sides. Party guests formed an outer ring, everyone recording, everyone waiting for something to happen. Malik kept his hands open, palms visible. His voice stayed level and calm. "Preston, I don't want any trouble. Just let my cousin go home." Preston's smile turned predatory. He knew he had the crowd, the cameras, and the power. "Trouble? Who said anything about trouble? We're just having fun here." That's when Ethan grabbed Jamal by the shoulder and shoved him hard toward the concrete steps. The concrete edge caught Jamal square in the forehead. The sharp crack echoed over the music like a gunshot. Blood immediately started running down his face in thick, dark streams. "Oh my God!" someone screamed. The music cut out. The party noise died to shocked whispers. Jamal lay crumpled against the bottom step, his body unnaturally still. Blood pooled beneath his head on the concrete. Preston stepped forward, his voice booming over the sudden silence. "Everyone saw that. This guy started pushing people around, caused all this chaos." Malik dropped to his knees beside Jamal. His hands moved quickly, checking for breathing, feeling for a pulse. Jamal's chest rose and fell weakly. His eyes were closed, blood still flowing. "Someone call 911, Malik said, his voice steady but urgent. "Right now." Nobody moved. Everyone just stood there with their phones, recording instead of helping. "I said call 911. Malik's voice cracked like a whip. Behind him, Ethan's laughter cut through the tension. Deep, ugly laughter that made Malik's skin crawl. "Look at him," Ethan sneered. "Detroit boy playing doctor. Maybe next time your little cousin won't be such a—" Malik felt Ethan's heavy hand grab his shoulder from behind. The grip was meant to hurt, to humiliate, to drag him away from Jamal. Malik stood slowly. He turned around and looked Ethan dead in the eyes. "Don't," he said quietly. "Walk away." Ethan's smile stretched wider. He was bigger than Malik, heavier, used to intimidating people with his size. "Or what, tough guy?" "Walk away," Malik repeated. Ethan swung anyway. A haymaker punch aimed right at Malik's jaw, thrown with all the arrogance of someone who'd never faced real consequences. Malik moved like water. He slipped the punch by inches, grabbed Ethan's extended wrist, and twisted. The motion was smooth, precise, devastating. Ethan's balance shattered instantly. Malik drove his shoulder into Ethan's ribs and sent him crashing backward into the wooden porch railing. The railing cracked. Ethan hit the ground hard, gasping, his face twisted in shock and pain. "No way," someone whispered. 3 more fraternity brothers rushed forward. They came together, thinking numbers would save them. They were wrong. The first one threw a wild swing. Malik ducked under it and drove his fist straight into the boy's nose. The cartilage crunched. Blood exploded across his face. He dropped to his knees, screaming. The second boy tried to tackle Malik around the waist. Malik caught his wrist mid-grab and twisted it until something popped. The boy's scream cut through the night as his wrist bent at an impossible angle. The third one hesitated for just a second, seeing his friends destroyed so easily. That hesitation cost him everything. Malik's body shot caught him right below the ribs, lifting him off his feet. All the air rushed out of his lungs at once. He folded over and collapsed onto the grass, unable to breathe, his face turning purple. The entire fight lasted maybe 15 seconds. The crowd had gone completely silent. Phones still recorded, but nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They'd just watched one man dismantle 4 attackers with surgical precision. This wasn't street fighting. This wasn't lucky punches. This was something else entirely. Something trained. Something deadly. Preston backed away slowly, his face pale as paper. The smooth confidence had vanished. For the first time in his privileged life, he looked genuinely afraid. Malik stood over the groaning fraternity brothers, his breathing barely elevated. His hands weren't even shaking. He looked down at Ethan, who was still gasping against the broken railing. "I told you to walk away," Malik said quietly. He could have kept going, could have broken bones, shattered jaws, put them all in the hospital. Every instinct screamed at him to finish what they started. But he stopped. He wouldn't give them the monster they wanted on camera. In the distance, police sirens began wailing, growing closer. Preston leaned down to Ethan's ear, his voice an urgent whisper. "We need to control this story before sunrise." The emergency room smelled like disinfectant and fear. Malik sat in a hard plastic chair, watching the doctor clean blood from Jamal's forehead under harsh fluorescent lights. His cousin's face was pale, but the cut wasn't as deep as it looked. Head wounds always bled like hell. Malik's knuckles were purple and swollen. Each finger throbbed with a dull ache that reminded him of the old days, the underground fights he'd sworn never to think about. He flexed his hand slowly, testing the damage. "I'm sorry," Jamal whispered, his voice thick with guilt. "This is all my fault. I should never have gone to that party." "No." Malik's voice was firm but gentle. "You did nothing wrong. Those boys chose to hurt you. That's on them, not you. But if I hadn't texted you, then you'd be lying here alone." Malik leaned forward, making sure Jamal could see his eyes. "Family protects family. Always. You understand me?" Jamal nodded, but tears still ran down his cheeks. The doctor finished with the stitches and gave them discharge papers. Jamal would be fine. The wound would heal clean. Malik wished everything else would be that simple. Across town, the Delta Sigma Nu house buzzed with frantic energy. Preston paced the main room while Ethan held an ice pack against his ribs. Several fraternity brothers huddled around laptops, scrolling through dozens of phone videos from the party. "This one," said Marcus Webb, pointing at his screen. "Look at this angle." Preston leaned over Marcus's shoulder. The video showed Malik's devastating body shot. The fraternity brother folding to the grass like he'd been hit with a sledgehammer. But the footage started right at the moment of impact. No context, no circle, no Jamal bleeding on the steps. "Perfect," Preston said. "What else do we have?" They spent the next hour crafting their narrative. Videos showing Malik warning Ethan got deleted. Footage of the trapped circle disappeared into recycling bins. The clips of Jamal's fall never made it to anyone's social media. What remained was a carefully edited story, a violent outsider attacking innocent fraternity members at a peaceful party. Caption it, Preston ordered. Dangerous student assaults multiple victims at campus event. Make sure everyone knows his name. By 3 in the morning, the video had been uploaded to Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Snapchat. Preston's connections spread it further. Within hours, it would reach thousands of students before they woke up for Saturday classes. Nina Alvarez couldn't sleep. The graduate journalism student sat in her small apartment, scrolling through social media on her laptop. She'd seen the party footage 3 times now, and something bothered her. The editing was too clean, too convenient. She paused the video at the moment Malik threw his first punch. The timestamp showed 9:06 p.m., but the next clip, showing a different angle, jumped to 9:11 p.m. 5 minutes missing. In a fight that lasted maybe 30 seconds, why were 5 minutes gone? Nina opened her editing software and began analyzing the footage frame by frame. The lighting changed between cuts. People moved from one position to another without explanation. Someone had definitely removed something important. She grabbed her notebook and started writing questions. Who filmed the missing footage? Why cut out those specific moments? What happened before Malik started fighting? Her professor always said the real story lived in what people tried to hide. Back at the dorm, Malik helped Jamal into bed and checked his stitches one more time. His cousin fell asleep quickly, exhausted from blood loss and shock. Malik sat by the window, watching dawn creep across campus. The police had taken his statement at the hospital. Everything was documented: Jamal's injury, the circle, the threats, the attacks. The truth was on record. That had to count for something. His phone buzzed at exactly 8:00 a.m. The email was short and official. Mr. Turner, report to Dean Voss's office immediately. Do not bring legal representation. This is an administrative matter. Malik stared at the screen. Administrative matter. His stomach dropped as he realized the war was just beginning. Saturday morning felt different on campus. Malik and Jamal walked the familiar paths between brick buildings, but everything had changed overnight. Students turned their heads as they passed. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Phones came out to record. Look, there he is, someone whispered behind them. That's the guy from the video. He looks dangerous. Malik kept his face calm, but his jaw tightened. Jamal pulled his hood up, trying to hide the white bandage on his forehead. The stitches itched, but the stares hurt worse. A group of girls stepped off the sidewalk as they approached. One clutched her backpack tighter. Another pulled out her phone and started filming. Just keep walking, Malik murmured to Jamal. They'd seen the video by now. Everyone had. The edited version where Malik looked like a monster attacking innocent students. The version where his cousin's blood didn't exist. The administration building loomed ahead, all glass and steel designed to intimidate. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as their footsteps echoed on polished floors. A secretary directed them to the 3rd floor without looking up from her computer. Dean Margaret Voss's office occupied a corner with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the quad. Her desk was massive mahogany, covered in neat stacks of papers and a brass nameplate that caught the morning light. She sat behind it like a judge, her gray hair pulled back severely, and her expression cold. Preston Hale was already there. He sat in one of the leather chairs facing the desk, his right arm in a white sling that looked suspiciously clean. His clothes were pressed, his hair perfect, his face the picture of wounded innocence. "Mr. Turner," Dean Voss said without standing. "Please sit." Malik remained standing. "Where's my advisor? I thought students had the right to representation." "This is an administrative matter, not a disciplinary hearing," Voss replied smoothly. "Your cousin may observe quietly." Jamal took a seat against the wall, but Malik stayed on his feet. The office felt like a trap. "We're also joined by telephone," Voss continued, pressing a button on her desk phone. "This is Senator Royce," a deep voice crackled through the speaker. "I want to know what this university plans to do about the thug who attacked my son." Malik's hands tightened into fists. Thug. There it was. "Senator, we're handling this matter with complete seriousness," Voss assured the phone. "Mr. Turner, I've reviewed the footage from last night's incident." "Did you review all the footage?" Malik asked. "Because what's online doesn't show." "What I saw," Voss interrupted, "was you violently assaulting multiple students without provocation." Preston shifted in his chair, wincing dramatically. "Dean Voss, I tried to de-escalate the situation. I really did. But Malik just exploded. He came looking for trouble." "That's a lie." Jamal shot up from his chair, his voice shaking. "They pushed me down the stairs first. They surrounded him." "Mr. Reed," Voss said sharply, "you're clearly emotional about this situation. Your perspective may be compromised." "Compromised?" Jamal touched his bandages. "I have stitches in my head." "From falling," Preston said smoothly. "Unfortunately, accidents happen at parties. But that doesn't excuse your cousin's violent response." Malik stared at Preston, amazed at how easily the lies came. No shame, no hesitation. Just polished words delivered with practiced sincerity. "The video shows everything," Preston continued. "I was trying to calm things down when Malik started throwing punches. Ask anyone who was there." "We did," Voss said, consulting her notes. "Multiple witnesses confirm you attacked first, Mr. Turner." The same witnesses who had watched Jamal bleed on the concrete, who had seen the circle close around him, who had recorded everything and then edited out the truth. Malik realized this wasn't about facts. It was about narrative control. "Mr. Turner," Voss continued, "effective immediately. You are suspended pending a full investigation. You're banned from all campus activities, residential areas, and social events. You're also forbidden from contacting any fraternity members involved in this incident." "What about classes?" Malik asked. "You'll receive information about remote learning options." Remote learning? Isolated? Branded dangerous before any investigation began. "This is insane," Jamal said. "You're punishing the wrong person?" Senator Royce's voice boomed through the speaker. "My son has a fractured rib and a concussion. This animal should be in jail, not getting academic accommodations." Animal. The word hit Malik like a physical blow. "Senator, we understand your concerns," Voss replied. "Mr. Turner, campus police will escort you from the building. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings from university housing." Preston smiled slightly, just enough for Malik to see. Victory looked good on him. Outside the administration building, students had gathered on the steps. Word traveled fast on campus, and everyone wanted to see the dangerous student get kicked out. Malik pushed through the glass doors with Jamal beside him. The morning sun felt harsh on his face. Whispers followed them down the steps. A young woman with short dark hair and intense eyes approached them near the bottom. She carried a notebook and moved with purpose. "Malik Turner?" she called out. "I'm Nina Alvarez from the Independent Student Press. I've been analyzing the footage from last night's party." Malik paused, surprised. "The video that's going viral has been heavily edited," Nina continued. "There are gaps in the timeline, inconsistent lighting, and missing context. I'd like to hear your side of the story." For the first time since the fight, someone wanted the truth instead of the narrative. Before Malik could answer, 2 campus police officers appeared on either side of him. "Sir, you need to come with us," the taller officer said, his hand resting on his radio. Students pulled out phones, recording, as the officers flanked Malik like he was a criminal. Nina stepped back, but her eyes stayed locked on his face. "This is harassment," Jamal protested. "Step back, son," the second officer warned. They escorted Malik away from the building while dozens of students watched and filmed. His suspension had just become a public spectacle. The dorm room felt like a crime scene. 2 campus security officers stood by the door while Malik folded clothes into a worn duffel bag. Every movement was watched, every item scrutinized. "You got 15 more minutes," the older guard said, checking his watch. His name tag read Morrison. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jamal sat on the narrow bed, fists clenched in his lap. Blood had dried on his shirt collar from the night before. The bandage on his forehead made him look younger, more vulnerable. "This is garbage," Jamal muttered. "You saved me, and they're treating you like a criminal." Malik pulled textbooks from his desk drawer. Criminal justice theory, constitutional law, police ethics. The irony wasn't lost on him. "Keep your voice down," Malik said quietly. "No." Jamal stood up, anger finally breaking through. "I won't keep quiet. They shoved me down those stairs. They trapped you. And now you're the one getting punished?" The younger security guard shifted uncomfortably. Maybe he'd heard rumors. Maybe he knew the video looked suspicious. Malik packed his laptop, the power cord, and a photo of his mother. Everything that mattered fit in one bag. 3 years of college reduced to 40 pounds of belongings. "Time's up," Morrison announced. Through the window, Malik could see students crossing the quad below. Normal Saturday afternoon life. Football games, study groups, dating. The world he'd been cut out of with one edited video. They walked downstairs under escort. Other students pressed against their doorways, watching like he was a celebrity or a serial killer. Same difference, really. Outside the dorm, a young woman with short, dark hair waited by a bench. She wore jeans and a faded journalism school sweatshirt. Intense brown eyes tracked their movement. "That's the reporter," Jamal whispered. Nina Alvarez approached, as the security guards handed Malik his temporary ban notice. "Mr. Turner? I'm Nina Alvarez from the Independent Student Press." She extended her hand. Her grip was firm, direct. "I run a small campus news channel, about 300 subscribers, but we focus on stories the official paper won't touch." Malik looked at her carefully. In his experience, reporters wanted drama, not truth. "I've been analyzing the footage that went viral," Nina continued. "It's been heavily edited, missing audio, camera angle gaps, timestamp inconsistencies. Someone spent serious time crafting that narrative." The guards had moved away, but they were still watching. "What do you want?" Malik asked. "Your side. The real story." Nina pulled out a small recorder. "What actually happened at Birch Row last night?" Malik hesitated. Every instinct told him to stay quiet, keep his head down, wait for the investigation. But the investigation was being run by people who'd already decided he was guilty. "They had my cousin surrounded," Malik said finally. "Hazing ritual, public humiliation stuff. I just wanted to get Jamal out of there." Nina nodded, taking notes. "Then what?" "Preston Hale accused me of disrupting tradition. Ethan Royce blocked the exit. More guys formed a circle. I tried to leave peacefully. The video shows you attacking first. Because they cut out Ethan shoving Jamal down the stairs." Malik's voice stayed level, but anger flickered underneath. "They cut out the blood. The crowd trapping me. Everything that would show who really started it." Nina wrote faster. "Why didn't you just walk away?" "From what?" "They had us surrounded. And after Jamal got hurt." Malik shook his head. "I warned Ethan once. He swung anyway." "You have fighting experience." "Some." Malik wasn't ready to explain about the underground circuits, the desperate money, the violence he'd walked away from. "Preston Hale's father is a major university donor," Nina said. His family has connections to the board of trustees, the dean's office, local politics. If I investigate this, I'm going up against serious power. Then don't. Malik shouldered his bag. I'm not worth your career. Nina smiled grimly. That's exactly why you are worth it. By evening, Malik and Jamal sat in a cramped motel room 6 blocks from campus. The roadside inn charged by the week and didn't ask questions. The carpet was stained brown. The air conditioner rattled like it was dying. Jamal lay on one of the twin beds, scrolling through his phone. His face kept getting darker. They're posting threats, Jamal said. People saying you should be expelled. Some saying worse. Malik sat at the small table by the window, trying to focus on homework assignments he'd downloaded before losing campus internet access. Constitutional law seemed pointless when the Constitution wasn't protecting him. Preston posted something an hour ago, Jamal continued. Want to hear it? No. Jamal read it anyway. Delta Sigma Nu stands united against senseless violence on our campus. Our brothers were attacked without provocation while trying to help a struggling student. We pray for healing and justice. Malik's pencil snapped in his hand. Struggling student. Like Jamal needed their help. Like they weren't the ones who put him in the hospital. Malik. Jamal's voice was quiet. Look at this. He held up his phone. The viral video was playing again. Malik watched himself move with deadly precision, dropping frat boys one after another. The edited version made him look like a machine built for violence. No context, no provocation. Just a black man destroying white college students. 50,000 views already, Jamal whispered. Malik stared at the screen. This was how the world would see him now. Not as someone who protected family. Not as someone who tried to walk away. As a beast. He closed the laptop and walked to the window. Campus lights twinkled in the distance. Students were probably at parties, football games, normal college life. The fight on Birch Row was over in 30 seconds. The real war was just beginning. Sunday morning arrived gray and cold. Nina Alvarez walked down Birch Row with her camera bag slung over her shoulder, retracing the path from the sidewalk to the Delta Sigma Nu porch steps. The street was quiet now. Empty beer cans and red plastic cups littered the gutters like evidence of Friday night's chaos. She stopped where Jamal had fallen. Dark stains marked the concrete. Blood that had dried into the stone. Nina pulled out her phone and started recording. This is where it started, she said to the camera, where a college freshman got shoved down these steps while 50 people watched. A few students walked past on their way to brunch. Nina approached them with her press badge visible. Excuse me, were you at the Delta Sigma Nu party Friday night? A blonde girl in yoga pants shook her head quickly. I wasn't there. I don't know anything. I saw you in the background of 3 different videos. The girl's face went pale. I said I don't know anything. She hurried away. Nina tried 6 more students. Same result. Either they weren't there, or they saw nothing, or they suddenly had somewhere else to be. Then she spotted Owen Park sitting on a bench near the campus bookstore. The nervous-looking sophomore was scrolling through his phone, but his hands were shaking. Owen? Nina sat down beside him. I'm Nina Alvarez from Campus Truth. Can we talk about Friday night? Owen looked up. His face was bruised on one side. Fresh bruises. I can't. I already told the police everything. What did you tell them? That Malik Turner attacked my brothers without warning. The words came out flat, like he'd rehearsed them. Nina studied his face. Is that what really happened? Owen's jaw tightened. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Fear? Guilt? Maybe both. Owen, if someone's threatening you... A truck engine roared to life across the street. Owen's head snapped up. Ethan Royce sat behind the wheel of a black pickup, staring directly at them. His right arm was in a sling, but his left hand gripped the steering wheel like a weapon. Owen stood up fast. "I have to go." "Owen, wait!" "I told you. I don't know anything." He walked away quickly, not looking back. Ethan's truck followed Owen down the street, engine growling like a threat. Nina spent the next hour documenting everything. The fraternity house, the porch steps, the sight lines from different angles. Then she noticed something important. A townhouse directly across the street had a security camera pointed at the Delta Sigma Nu front yard. She knocked on the door. An elderly woman answered. "Ma'am, I'm investigating what happened Friday night. Does your security camera record footage?" The woman nodded. 7 days before it deletes. "But some boys already asked about it yesterday. Offered me $500 to forget I had it. Did you take the money?" The woman smiled. "Child, I've been fighting rich bullies for 70 years. Come back tonight. Bring a USB drive." Across town, Malik sat in a cramped office that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. Denise Ward, his court-appointed public defender, shuffled through a stack of papers with the speed of someone who'd seen this story before. 4 fraternity members filed assault complaints, Denise said. She was 46, sharp-eyed, and had no patience for sugarcoating. Ethan Royce, Marcus Webb, Tyler Stone, and Blake Morrison. They're claiming you attacked them unprovoked. Malik stared at her. Unprovoked? They surrounded me. They hurt my cousin. Can you prove that? There were 50 people watching. And how many of those 50 people are willing to testify for you? Malik's silence was answer enough. Denise leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Turner, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen good men destroyed because they thought truth was enough. Truth needs evidence. Evidence needs witnesses. Witnesses need courage." She tapped the papers. "Right now, you're facing multiple felony assault charges. The prosecutor is talking about enhanced penalties because of the severity of injuries. I didn't even break anyone's bones. Doesn't matter. This isn't about justice. This is about power, and powerful families protect their children." Malik felt something cold settle in his chest. "So I'm guilty before I even get to trial? Not if we find proof. Real proof. Video, audio, something they can't explain away." Denise studied his face. "Tell me about your fighting background." Malik tensed. "What fighting background? The way you moved in that video? That wasn't luck. You've trained." "Some MMA. Years ago." "How much training?" "Enough." Denise waited. "Underground circuits," Malik admitted. "When my mother was sick. I needed money fast." "How good were you?" "Good enough to nearly kill someone." Denise nodded slowly. "They're going to use that. Paint you as a professional fighter who beat up college kids for fun. We need to control that narrative." That evening, the 4 of them gathered in Malik's motel room. Nina had her laptop open, showing screenshots from social media. Jamal sat on the bed, looking smaller than his 23 years. Denise reviewed police reports while making notes. "I found something," Nina said. "The townhouse across from Delta Sigma Nu has security footage. The owner's willing to share it." "Why didn't she give it to police?" Denise asked. "Because Preston's people got to her first. Tried to buy it." Malik looked at Jamal. "Tell them about the hazing." Jamal's voice was quiet. "They've been targeting me for weeks, ever since Rush started. Making me do push-ups in the cafeteria. Forcing me to carry their bags. Stupid stuff at first. Then it got worse?" Nina asked. "They wanted me to—" Jamal's face flushed. "They wanted me to strip down to my underwear and run through the girls' dorms. Said it was tradition. When I refused, they got angry." "How angry?" "Preston said I was disrespecting their brotherhood, that I needed to learn respect." Jamal touched the bandage on his forehead. "Friday night was supposed to be my final test. If I passed, I'd get a bid. What was the test? Let them throw things at me while I stood there. Bottles, food, whatever. For 10 minutes without fighting back. Jamal's hands clenched. I said no. That's when Malik showed up. Denise looked up from her notes. So this wasn't random. They specifically targeted your cousin to humiliate him. And when I interfered, Malik said, they had to destroy me too. Nina closed her laptop. Then we need that security footage before they make it disappear. Jamal stood up. I want to help. This is my fault. No, Malik said firmly. This is their fault. All of it. Denise gathered her papers. We need to move fast. Once they realize we're building a case, they'll start covering tracks. She looked at each of them. Are you all committed to this? Because once we start, they're going to come after us hard. Nina smiled grimly. Good. I'm tired of rich boys thinking they own the world. The hunt for truth was about to begin. Monday morning light filtered through the motel's thin curtains as Malik sat hunched over the small table with a notebook spread before him, writing in neat, careful handwriting as he reconstructed every moment from Friday night. Jamal had texted him at 8:47 p.m. with 3 desperate words. Help! Birch Row. Scared. Malik arrived at the Delta Sigma Nu house at 8:52, found Jamal surrounded on the front lawn at 8:54, and heard Preston accuse him of ruining tradition by 8:56. His pen stopped as he closed his eyes, remembering Preston's smug face in the crowd's phone lights and the way the fraternity president had performed for the cameras, knowing exactly what he was doing. By 8:58, Ethan had blocked the walkway. At 9:01, the fraternity brothers formed a circle with no exit. At 9:03, Malik asked to leave, and Preston refused. At 9:05, Ethan shoved Jamal down the steps. Malik's hand tightened around the pen as that moment replayed in his mind. Jamal hitting concrete, the blood, the sudden silence. The fight began at 9:06, ended at 9:08, and police sirens came at 9:12. 2 minutes. That was all it had taken to destroy his life. 2 minutes of defending his family, and the world decided he was a monster. Jamal stirred on the bed behind him and asked, "You been up all night?" Malik didn't look away from the notebook. Had to get it down right. Every detail matters now. Across town, Nina knocked on the door of 847 Birch Row, a neat townhouse with white shutters directly facing the Delta Sigma Nu property. An elderly woman with silver hair and sharp blue eyes answered. "Mrs. Briggs, I'm Nina Alvarez from Campus News. We spoke yesterday about your security camera." Eleanor Briggs stepped aside, letting Nina into a living room that smelled like lavender and fresh bread. "Come in, dear. I've been thinking about that night all weekend." "What did you see?" Eleanor led her to the front window. From here, the Delta Sigma Nu porch was perfectly visible. I was watching television when the music got loud. Then I heard shouting. She pointed toward the fraternity house. That's when I looked outside. "Did you see the fight?" "I saw that poor boy get pushed down those steps. Blood everywhere. Then I saw the young man in the denim jacket try to help him." Eleanor's voice hardened. "What I didn't see was anyone calling for help. They just stood there with their phones out, like it was entertainment." Nina pulled out her recorder. "Would you be willing to check your security footage? The camera above your door might have captured everything." Eleanor nodded firmly. "Those boys have been nothing but trouble since they moved in. Loud parties, throwing trash on my lawn, intimidating anyone who complains. It's about time someone held them accountable." While Eleanor went to check her system, Nina's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop protecting a violent criminal. You don't know what you're dealing with. Last warning." Nina screenshotted the message and deleted it. She'd received threats before. They usually meant she was getting close to something important. Meanwhile, on campus, Preston stood at a podium in the student union, addressing a crowd of nearly 200 students. Behind him, a banner read, "Students for Campus Safety." "Violence has no place at our university," Preston declared, his voice carrying false sincerity. "What happened Friday night shows why we need better security measures to protect peaceful students from dangerous individuals." The crowd murmured agreement. Preston's performance was flawless. The concerned leader, the voice of reason. Several news cameras captured his every word. "We cannot allow one person's history of violence to terrorize our community. Some students come here to learn. Others come here to hurt people." Preston paused for effect. "We must stand together against those who would use fear and brutality to get their way." A reporter raised her hand. "Are you referring to the viral video of Malik Turner?" "I'm referring to anyone who believes violence solves problems. The footage speaks for itself." Preston's eyes found the news camera, and for just a moment, his mask slipped. A tiny smirk crossed his face before the concerned expression returned. That afternoon, Eleanor called Nina back. "I found it, dear. You need to see this." Nina rushed back to Birch Row, her heart pounding. Eleanor led her to a computer in the home office, where security footage played on the screen. The timestamp read 9:03 p.m. The image quality was surprisingly clear, showing the Delta Sigma Nu porch and front lawn in sharp detail. "Watch this part," Eleanor said, pointing at the screen. Nina leaned forward. There was Jamal, surrounded by red-jacketed figures. There was Malik, hands open, clearly trying to de-escalate. And there— "Oh my God," Nina whispered. The footage showed everything. Ethan's deliberate shove, Jamal falling hard against the concrete steps, the fraternity brothers closing ranks, blocking every path away from the house. Most importantly, it showed Malik backing away repeatedly before the fight began. "This proves he was defending himself," Nina said. "More than that," Eleanor replied. "It proves they trapped him on purpose. Watch how they move. That's not random. That's coordinated." Nina pulled out her phone. "Mrs. Briggs, would you be willing to share this footage? It could change everything." Eleanor's jaw set with determination. "Those boys hurt that child and then tried to destroy the man who helped him. Of course I'll share it." Nina saved the footage to her laptop and rushed toward her car. For the first time since Friday night, she had proof. Real, undeniable proof. 20 minutes later, she burst through the motel room door, laptop in hand. "Malik," she called. "I found it. I found the truth." Malik looked up from his timeline, hope flickering in his eyes for the first time in 3 days. "Show me," he said quietly. Nina set up her laptop on the small table. As the footage played, Malik watched himself on screen. Calm, controlled, trying to leave. Then came Ethan's shove, Jamal's fall, the blood. When it ended, Malik closed his eyes and took one slow, deep breath. "This changes everything," he said. For the first time since Friday night, Malik Turner allowed himself to hope that the truth might actually matter. Monday evening arrived with a heavy knock on the motel room door. Malik opened it to find Denise Ward carrying her worn leather briefcase and a large coffee. "I came as soon as Nina called," Denise said, stepping inside. "Show me this footage." Jamal sat forward on the edge of the bed, his bandaged forehead catching the lamplight. His hands trembled slightly as Nina set up her laptop on the small table. "This is it," Nina said, clicking play. Mrs. Briggs's security camera caught everything. The footage began. Denise adjusted her reading glasses and leaned in, her expression growing sharper with each passing second. When Ethan shoved Jamal, she muttered under her breath. When the fraternity brothers formed their coordinated circle, her jaw tightened. "Those animals," she said quietly. Jamal watched himself fall again, wincing at the impact. "I can't believe they made it look like Malik started it." "They didn't just make it look that way," Denise replied, rewinding the footage. They planned it. Look at their positioning. This isn't random party chaos. This is deliberate entrapment. Malik stood against the wall, arms crossed. Will this stop the charges? More than that. Denise pulled legal papers from her briefcase. This proves self-defense and false accusation. I'm filing an emergency petition tomorrow morning to reverse your suspension immediately. The criminal charges won't survive cross-examination with this evidence. Nina saved multiple copies of the footage to different drives. I'm writing a careful report for tonight's deadline, but I need to confirm additional witnesses first. Be smart about this, Malik warned. Preston's family has money and connections. They won't just roll over. I know, Nina replied. That's why I'm being thorough. Denise packed her papers. The university administration will panic when they see this footage. They know they suspended the wrong student. Dean Voss is going to scramble to cover her mistake. After Denise left, Nina returned to her apartment to write the story. She double-checked facts, verified timestamps, and prepared to publish the truth that would vindicate Malik. At 11:47 p.m., her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Is this Nina Alvarez? I was at the party Friday. I have information. Nina typed back quickly. Who is this? Owen Park. Delta Sigma Nu Pledge. I can't keep quiet anymore. Nina's pulse quickened. What do you want to tell me? Meet me at the 24-hour diner on Campus Drive. Come alone. This is bigger than you think. An hour later, Nina slid into a booth across from Owen, a nervous young man with dark circles under his eyes. His hands shook as he stirred sugar into his coffee. I shouldn't be here, Owen whispered. If Preston finds out, I'm finished. What do you know about Friday night? Owen glanced around the empty diner, then pulled out his phone. We have a private group chat. Everything gets shared there. Hazing videos, jokes about students, plans for parties. Nina's eyes widened. Plans? Preston specifically wanted to mess with Malik. He said a quiet guy like that would probably snap if pushed hard enough. He wanted it recorded for social media. You're saying this was intentional? Completely. Owen's voice cracked. Preston thought it would be funny to watch someone lose control on camera. He picked Malik because he looked like an easy target. Nina felt sick. That's criminal conspiracy. It gets worse. Preston's father has helped cover up complaints before. Students who reported hazing or harassment suddenly withdrew their complaints. Witnesses changed their stories. Evidence disappeared. Do you have proof of this? Owen nodded, his hands trembling harder. Screenshots of the group chat. Emails between Preston's father and the university. Payment records to witnesses who changed their testimony. Send them to me, right now. Owen hesitated. If I do this, there's no going back. Malik's life is being destroyed for defending his cousin. You know what's right. Owen's fingers moved across his phone screen. I'm sending everything. The hazing videos, the racist jokes. Not using slurs, but you'll know what they mean. The planning messages about Friday night. All of it. Nina's phone began buzzing with incoming files. Message after message of evidence poured in. This is incredible, Nina breathed. This proves everything. Owen stood to leave, then paused. Preston targeted Malik specifically. This wasn't random violence. It was entertainment. Before Nina could respond, Owen's phone lit up with an incoming call. Preston's name flashed on the screen. Owen's face went white. He declined the call, but immediately another came through. Then another. He knows, Owen whispered. His phone buzzed with a text message. Owen read it and went pale. What does it say? Nina asked. Owen showed her the screen. I know you're talking. You're finished. Owen's hands shook as he typed a final message to Nina. Ethan found out. I have to disappear. Tuesday morning arrived with gray clouds pressing down on the campus like a warning. Nina parked outside Eleanor Briggs's neat townhouse, clutching her recorder and a folder of questions. She needed Eleanor's signed statement to make the security footage official evidence. Without it, Denise couldn't file the emergency petition to clear Malik's name. Nina knocked on the familiar front door, expecting Eleanor's warm smile and fresh coffee. Instead, the door cracked open just enough to reveal Eleanor's face. Pale, drawn, and frightened. "Mrs. Briggs, are you okay?" Eleanor glanced past Nina toward the street, then pulled her inside quickly. "They came before sunrise," Eleanor whispered, her voice shaking. "Two men in expensive suits. They said they represented the university's legal office." Nina's stomach dropped. "What did they want?" "They warned me." Eleanor's hands trembled as she locked the deadbolt behind them. "They said releasing private security footage could expose me to invasion of privacy lawsuits. They mentioned my fixed income, my mortgage, my late husband's medical bills. They knew everything about me." The living room felt different now, smaller, darker, violated. Eleanor sank into her chair like an old woman defeated. "But you still have the footage, right?" Nina asked desperately. Eleanor's face crumbled. "They deleted it, right from my computer. Said it was for my own protection. The file is completely gone." Nina's hands flew to her laptop bag. "I still have my copy. That's what matters." She opened her laptop and tried logging into her campus cloud account. The screen flashed red. "Account temporarily locked for security review." What is going on? Nina tried accessing her local files. Empty folders stared back at her. Her backup drives showed the same thing. Everything related to Malik's case was vanishing in real time. "They're wiping my files remotely," Nina breathed, watching years of journalism work disappear. "They're in my system." Her phone buzzed with an email from Owen Park. Nina opened it with shaking fingers. "Nina, I think you misunderstood our conversation yesterday. I never said anything about planning or targeting. Delta Sigma Nu is a respectable organization. Please don't contact me again." "Owen." "Coward," Nina whispered. But she understood. They had gotten to him too. Eleanor wrung her hands. "I'm sorry, dear. I wanted to help that young man, but I can't risk losing my home." Nina closed her useless laptop. "I don't blame you, Mrs. Briggs. They're playing with power we can't match." Across town, Denise Ward sat in the courthouse hallway, staring at documents that made her sick. The prosecutor had just handed her formal charges against Malik. Felony assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. 5 fraternity members had signed coordinated statements claiming Malik attacked without provocation. "This is a railroad job," Denise told the prosecutor. "My client was defending his cousin." "Your client hospitalized 3 students," the prosecutor replied coolly. "The evidence is overwhelming." "What evidence?" "Edited video and lies? Witness testimony from multiple victims. Medical reports. Your client has a history of underground fighting." Denise's blood froze. "How do you know about that?" The prosecutor smiled without warmth. "We know everything about Mr. Turner. His violent past speaks for itself." Back at the motel, Malik sat on the narrow bed, reading the charges on Denise's phone. Jamal paced by the window, his bandaged forehead catching the dim light. "How did they find out about Detroit?" Malik asked quietly. "Someone dug deep," Denise said. "They're using your old MMA record against you. Every fight, every underground match, every time you needed money for your mother's treatments." The motel room felt smaller with each passing minute. The walls pressed closer. The single window showed only the parking lot and the highway beyond, exits that led nowhere safe. Malik's phone buzzed with a news alert. Nina forwarded it from her personal account. "University announces emergency disciplinary hearing for suspended student." The article was brief, but devastating. Dean Voss announced that tomorrow's hearing would address credible evidence of unprovoked violence, and determine Malik's permanent status at the university. Tomorrow. Jamal stopped pacing. That's not enough time to prepare. Denise shook her head grimly. They're moving fast to destroy him before any truth can breathe. Malik stared at the article, watching his future disappear in real time. Every witness intimidated. Every piece of evidence erased. Every door slamming shut. They weren't just covering up the truth. They were burying him alive. Wednesday afternoon, the university hearing room buzzed with tension thick enough to cut. Malik entered through the heavy oak doors with Denise at his right, Jamal close behind, and Nina carrying her camera bag despite warnings she might be ejected. The room smelled like old wood and fresh lies. Preston sat opposite them at a polished conference table, surrounded by 3 lawyers in expensive suits. His injured fraternity brothers flanked him like wounded soldiers, Ethan wearing a dramatic arm brace, 2 others sporting visible bruises that looked worse under the fluorescent lights. They had dressed for sympathy, all button-down shirts and pained expressions. Dean Margaret Voss commanded the head of the table like a judge, whose verdict was already written in stone. Her gray hair was pulled back severely, and her reading glasses caught the light as she shuffled through papers that would determine Malik's fate. This hearing will address credible allegations of unprovoked violence, Voss announced to the room. We must protect student safety above all else. Denise leaned forward, her voice sharp as a blade. Dean Voss, my client demands time to recover deleted evidence that proves his innocence. Multiple witnesses have been intimidated, and security footage has been deliberately destroyed. Voss barely glanced up from her papers. Ms. Ward, we cannot delay justice while you chase conspiracy theories. This university has a responsibility to act swiftly when students are injured. Justice? Denise's voice rose. This is a kangaroo court. You're rushing to judgment without hearing the full truth. The truth is sitting right there, Preston said smoothly, gesturing toward his bandaged brothers. We all witnessed Mr. Turner's unprovoked attack. Malik watched Preston perform innocence with practiced skill. The golden boy knew exactly how to look wounded and noble while lying through his perfect teeth. Voss called Preston's first witness, a fraternity member named Blake, who claimed Malik charged at them like a wild animal, without any warning. The lie rolled off Blake's tongue so easily that Malik wondered how many times they had rehearsed this script. He just started swinging, Blake testified, shaking his head sadly. We were just talking to his cousin about joining our brotherhood. Next thing we knew, he was putting people in the hospital. Denise objected. That's completely false. The defendant was defending his cousin after— Ms. Ward, Voss interrupted coldly. You will not coach witnesses or disrupt testimony. Ethan took the stand next, cradling his braced arm like a broken wing. He played the victim perfectly, describing how Malik's brutal training gave him an unfair advantage over innocent college students. I'm still in physical therapy, Ethan said, wincing for effect. The doctors said my shoulder might never fully recover. I can't sleep at night because I keep seeing his face when he attacked us. Malik's jaw tightened. Ethan was the same coward who had shoved Jamal down the steps, now pretending to be traumatized. Nina tried to speak from the gallery. Dean Voss, there's missing footage that shows— Ms. Alvarez, Voss snapped, you are here as a courtesy. One more interruption, and security will remove you. Nina fell silent, but her eyes burned with frustrated rage. The parade of fraternity witnesses continued, each one delivering the same polished lies. Malik was violent, unstable, dangerous. They were innocent victims who had barely escaped his unprovoked rampage. Finally, Voss turned to Malik. Mr. Turner, do you have anything to say before I render judgment? Malik rose slowly, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. His voice was quiet but steady, carrying the pain of watching his future disappear. Dean Voss, My cousin was bleeding on those concrete steps. His head was split open because Ethan Royce shoved him for refusing to be humiliated. I begged them to let us leave. I kept my hands open. I tried to walk away 5 different times. He looked directly at Preston, whose smirk flickered for just a moment. They trapped me in a circle while people filmed. They wanted me to fight so they could put it online. And when I finally defended myself and my family, they edited the truth out of existence. Malik's voice grew stronger, filled with righteous anger that made the room uncomfortable. I'm not the monster they're trying to paint. I'm a student who protected his cousin from bullies. And if you expel me for that, you're telling every student on this campus that money and privilege matter more than truth. Voss barely looked up from her papers. Mr. Turner, your history of underground fighting speaks to a pattern of violence. The evidence against you is overwhelming. What evidence? Malik demanded. Lies from people who attacked my family? But Voss had already made her decision. Based on witness testimony and the serious nature of these injuries, I am immediately expelling you from this university. Your case will be forwarded to prosecutors for criminal charges. The gavel fell like a gunshot. Campus police appeared as if summoned by magic, flanking Malik, while reporters outside snapped photos through the windows. The escort was designed for maximum humiliation, a final public destruction. Outside, cold rain soaked through Malik's jacket as he stood before the university gates. The iron bars looked like prison cells, separating him from everything he had worked to achieve. Jamal collapsed against the wet brick wall, his bandaged head in his hands. This is my fault, he sobbed. You lost everything because of me. Malik stared through the gates at the campus beyond, the library where he had studied late into countless nights, the dormitory where he had dreamed of becoming something more than the world expected, the future that had just been stolen in broad daylight. The rain mixed with something else on his cheeks, as he realized that sometimes truth meant nothing when lies had better lawyers. Wednesday night fell like a curtain over the small town, bringing with it a bone-deep cold that seemed to seep through everything. Instead of heading straight back to the cramped motel room that had become their temporary prison, Malik drove his beat-up Honda through winding back roads toward the outskirts of town. Jamal sat in the passenger seat, still wearing the bandage across his forehead like a badge of shame. Where are we going? Jamal asked quietly, watching bare trees blur past the window. Malik's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Somewhere I should have gone a long time ago. 20 minutes later, they pulled through rusted gates into Riverside Cemetery. The headlights cut through darkness as Malik navigated narrow paths between weathered stones until he stopped beside a simple granite marker. The engine ticked as it cooled, the only sound in the heavy silence. "Mom?" Malik whispered, stepping out into the cold air. Jamal followed, reading the inscription. Sharon Turner, beloved mother. She fought until the end. Malik knelt in the wet grass, his fingers tracing the carved letters. I never told you the whole truth about why I quit fighting. The words came slowly, like pulling glass from an old wound. Malik's voice carried the weight of years of buried guilt as he stared at his mother's name. When Mom got sick, the treatments cost everything we had and more. Insurance barely covered half. I watched her get weaker while bills piled up like mountains. So I started fighting again. Not sanctioned matches. Underground stuff. Cash only. No questions asked. Jamal sat beside him on the cold ground, listening without judgment. I told myself it was temporary, just enough to keep her treatments going. But those fights, they weren't like amateur competitions. They were brutal. Desperate men betting their lives for money. Malik's voice cracked as the memory surfaced. There was this one fight in Detroit. Some rich guys brought their favorite down from Chicago. A huge dude covered in tattoos who kept calling me things I won't repeat. Kept saying Mom was probably already dead anyway, that I was wasting money on a lost cause. His fists clenched involuntarily. Something snapped inside me. All the fear, all the helplessness watching her suffer, it turned into pure rage. I didn't just beat him. I tried to destroy him, broke 3 ribs, shattered his jaw, kept hitting him even after he was unconscious. Jamal's eyes widened. What happened? They had to pull me off before I killed him. He spent 2 weeks in intensive care. And Mom, she found out somehow. Saw it in my eyes when I came home with bloody knuckles and too much cash. Malik's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She made me promise her something that night. She said, "Baby, don't let this world's cruelty turn you into what they already think you are. You're not an animal. You're my son, and you're better than their hate." The cemetery held their silence like a sacred space. I kept that promise for 3 years, Malik continued. Even when she died, even when I had nothing left, I chose restraint over rage, dignity over destruction. Until Friday night. Jamal shook his head firmly. What you did wasn't the same thing. You protected me. You tried to walk away. That wasn't rage. That was love. But I still became what they wanted to paint me as. No, Jamal said, surprising himself with his conviction. You became what they forced you to become. There's a difference. They sat in contemplative silence until the cold became unbearable. The drive back to the motel felt longer, heavier with shared truth. The Sunset Inn looked even more depressing under flickering parking lot lights. Malik was fishing for his room key when Nina's car pulled up, her headlights sweeping across the cracked asphalt. She climbed out, looking exhausted, her journalism bag hanging from one shoulder like dead weight. My advisor suspended my campus channel, she announced without preamble. Effective immediately. Said I was stirring up unnecessary controversy. Malik's heart sank further. Nina, I'm sorry. You shouldn't have. Don't, she cut him off. This isn't over. I still have the original footage on a backup drive they don't know about. They walked toward Malik's room together, 3 figures hunched against the cold and the weight of injustice. At the front desk, the night clerk, a tired-looking man in his 60s, called out to them. Hey, you Turner? Malik nodded. Someone left this for you about an hour ago. Young guy in one of those red and gold fraternity jackets. The clerk handed over a plain manila envelope with Malik's name written in careful block letters. Inside the motel room, under the harsh fluorescent light, Malik opened the envelope with trembling fingers. A flash drive fell onto the scratched table, followed by printed screenshots of group chat messages and a handwritten note on fraternity letterhead. The note was brief, but earth-shattering. Preston planned all of it. I'm done lying. Late Wednesday night, the motel room felt smaller with 4 people crowded around Malik's laptop. The overhead light buzzed like an angry insect while Nina inserted the flash drive with careful precision. Denise sat on the edge of the bed, her legal pad ready. Jamal paced behind them, unable to stay still. Whatever's on here, Denise said quietly, we treat it like evidence. No copies until I say. No sharing until we know it's legally clean. The drive contained dozens of folders organized with frightening efficiency. Nina clicked on the first one labeled Party Footage, Full. The screen filled with unedited video from multiple angles, time-stamped and crystal clear. Malik watched himself arrive at the party, calm and purposeful. The camera captured everything Preston's edited version had hidden. Jamal being surrounded and mocked, the fraternity brothers deliberately forming a circle to trap Malik, Ethan's vicious shove that sent Jamal tumbling toward concrete steps. My God, Denise breathed. They orchestrated the whole thing. Nina opened another folder. Group chat, screenshots. Pages of messages scrolled past, each one more damning than the last. Preston's words jumped off the screen like accusations. New Pledge's cousin is coming to pick him up. Perfect opportunity. Make sure cameras are rolling when Detroit boy snaps. Dad says we need viral content showing what happens when outsiders challenge tradition. Jamal stopped pacing, his face going pale. They picked me because I was alone. A folder marked hazing records revealed months of systematic abuse. Photos of pledges forced into humiliating positions. Videos of students crying while fraternity members laughed. Medical records showing injuries dismissed as accidents. The pattern was clear and horrifying. These boys have been running their own little torture chamber, Denise said, her voice thick with disgust. And the administration knew. The most damaging folder contained email exchanges between Dean Voss and Preston's father, Richard Hale. The messages showed a corrupt partnership stretching back years. Hale's donations bought silence. Voss's protection ensured continued funding. Margaret, we need this handled quietly. Preston's future is at stake. Richard, I understand completely. The Turner situation will be resolved by week's end. Excellent. The university appreciates friends who understand discretion. Nina's hands shook as she opened the final file. A video confession recorded by Owen Park. His face filled the screen. Nervous but determined, sitting in what looked like his dorm room. My name is Owen Park, and I'm a Delta Sigma New Pledge, he began. I'm making this recording because I can't stay silent anymore. Everything you've seen about Malik Turner is a lie. Owen's confession laid out the conspiracy with painful detail. He explained how Preston specifically targeted Jamal during rush week, identifying him as isolated and vulnerable. The fraternity had planned the confrontation for weeks, knowing Jamal would eventually call his protective cousin. Preston wanted Malik angry on camera, Owen continued. He said it would create viral content, warning other minorities not to challenge Greek life. He called it maintaining campus hierarchy through public examples. The recording showed Owen's hands trembling as he described Ethan's threats after their first conversation with Nina. The intimidation had been swift and brutal. Dead animals left in his room, anonymous calls threatening his family, fraternity brothers following him between classes. I copied everything before they could delete it, Owen said. These files prove Malik Turner defended his family against a planned attack. Preston Hale is the real criminal here. Denise was already reaching for her phone before the video ended. I need to contact Judge Harrison immediately. This evidence changes everything. Wait, Malik said quietly. What's the plan here? Nina looked at him with fierce determination. Full exposure. Every file, every message, every lie they told gets revealed publicly. Not revenge, Malik clarified. Truth. I want the world to see what really happened, but I want it done right. Public truth is exactly what we're talking about, Denise agreed, dialing her phone. This evidence doesn't just clear your name. It exposes systematic corruption. Nina was already creating secure backup copies across multiple drives. Her journalism training kicked into overdrive as she organized files for maximum impact. Judge Harrison? Denise spoke into her phone. It's Denise Ward. I need an emergency hearing. New evidence in the Turner case. Yes, ma'am. It's that significant. Malik watched his friends work with military precision. For the first time since Friday night, hope felt like more than wishful thinking. By sunrise Thursday, Nina had scheduled a live stream timed perfectly with the university board's emergency meeting. Thursday morning, light streamed through the tall windows of the university boardroom as administrators, donors, reporters, and lawyers filled every available seat. The polished mahogany table stretched the length of the room, with Dean Voss positioned at the head like a queen holding court. Preston sat surrounded by 3 expensive lawyers, his usual confident smile firmly in place. His father's legal team had arrived from the state capitol overnight, briefcases full of prepared statements and procedural challenges. Ethan slouched beside them, his arm still in the theatrical sling, glaring at everyone who entered. Malik entered with Denise, Jamal close behind them. The room's energy shifted immediately. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people stared at the young black man who had dominated campus headlines for 5 days straight. Some faces showed curiosity. Others displayed barely concealed hostility. Nina slipped in through the back entrance, her laptop bag slung over her shoulder and a small camera already recording from her jacket pocket. She positioned herself near the wall where security couldn't easily reach her without causing a scene. Dean Voss called the meeting to order with bureaucratic precision. This emergency session will address the recent incidents involving expelled student Malik Turner and allegations against Delta Sigma Nu fraternity. I want to emphasize this is purely procedural. Actually, Dean Voss, Denise interrupted, standing with practiced courtroom authority. We have new evidence that fundamentally changes this case. The room fell silent. Preston's lawyers exchanged glances, suddenly alert. Nina had already opened her laptop and begun streaming to her independent campus news channel. The viewer count started at 47 people, but climbed rapidly as word spread across social media platforms. Before anyone objects, Nina announced clearly, this is a public university proceeding, and I have every right to document it. Security guards moved toward her, but Dean Voss waved them back, not wanting to create additional drama on camera. Denise connected her laptop to the room's main display screen. Let's begin with the raw footage from Friday night. The first video showed Malik approaching the fraternity house, calm and purposeful. The timestamp proved he had arrived specifically to collect Jamal, not to start trouble. The camera angle captured his body language, hands open, voice steady, repeatedly asking to leave. Then came the moment that changed everything. Ethan's brutal shove, sending Jamal sprawling toward the concrete steps. Blood appeared immediately. The crowd's gasps were audible even through the low-quality phone recording. This is what really started the violence, Denise said. Malik Turner defending his injured cousin. The next segment showed the fraternity brothers forming their trap. Not a random fight, but a deliberate circle designed to prevent escape. Preston stood clearly visible, gesturing for his brothers to close the gaps, encouraging the crowd to keep filming. Preston's polished mask began slipping. His lawyers whispered urgently in his ears, but his face had gone pale. Now, let's examine the internal communications, Denise continued. The group chat messages appeared on screen, each one more damning than the last. Preston's voice planning to teach the Detroit boys some respect. Ethan joking about making him go animal mode for the cameras. Messages coordinating edited footage uploads. Nina watched her viewer count explode past 3,000 people. Comments flooded the stream as viewers realized they were witnessing a massive conspiracy unraveling in real time. The hazing videos came next. Jamal's weeks of torment, systematically documented by fraternity members who treated cruelty like entertainment. One clip showed Preston directly ordering Jamal to perform degrading acts while brothers laughed. Then the payment emails. Dean Voss's correspondence with Preston's father, discussing appropriate donations to handle unfortunate incidents. Witness testimony coordination. Evidence destruction agreements. The room had transformed from arrogant confidence to stunned horror. Several board members were frantically taking notes. Reporters scribbled furiously. Preston finally lost control completely. "That little traitor Owen destroyed everything," he shouted, pointing toward the camera. "He signed agreements. He swore loyalty." Ethan surged to his feet, yanking off the fake sling, and lunging toward Nina's camera with murderous intent. Malik moved between them without hesitation. He didn't strike, didn't grab, simply positioned his body as an immovable barrier, forcing Ethan to stop inches away. "Don't," Malik said quietly. The live stream viewer count hit 8,000 people and kept climbing. Board member Dr. Patricia Hendricks stood with trembling authority. Campus police, detain Preston Hale and Ethan Royce immediately. Thursday afternoon transformed Birch Row into a circus of justice. News vans lined both sides of the street, their satellite dishes reaching toward gray clouds like metal flowers seeking light. Students pressed against police barriers, phones raised, watching officers carry box after box of evidence from the Delta Sigma new house. The red and gold letters above the front door looked smaller now, powerless. The same porch steps where Jamal's blood had stained concrete now served as backdrop for reporters explaining how privilege had finally met consequences. Preston Hale, age 23, has been formally charged with witness tampering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice, announced Detective Maria Santos to the gathered press. Additional charges are pending as the investigation continues. Inside the fraternity house, officers methodically documented years of systematic abuse. Hazing videos filled evidence bags, financial records showing donor payments to silence victims, computer hard drives containing deleted group chats that forensic specialists would recover. The house that had terrorized students for decades was being stripped bare. Across campus, Dean Margaret Voss sat in her empty office, cardboard boxes stacked around her desk. The university board had given her 30 minutes to resign before they fired her publicly. Her face remained blank as she packed 22 years of administrative awards into cheap containers. Outside her window, reporters waited like vultures. At 4:17 p.m., she emerged from the administration building for the final time. Microphones thrust toward her face as questions exploded from all directions. "Dean Voss, did you take money to cover up assault? How long have you known about fraternity violence? Do you regret protecting Preston Hale?" Her heels clicked rapidly across the parking lot. No answers, no apologies. Just the hollow sound of a career ending in disgrace. By evening, the corruption reached beyond campus borders. State investigators announced a formal inquiry into Preston's father, Richard Hale, after payment records surfaced showing systematic bribes to university officials. The powerful donor who once controlled campus narratives now faced potential federal charges. The Delta Sigma Nu charter died with bureaucratic efficiency. University lawyers filed paperwork revoking recognition permanently. The house would be seized, converted into academic space, its legacy of cruelty finally ended. But the day's justice wasn't finished. Outside the county courthouse, Malik stood with Jamal and Nina as late afternoon shadows stretched across the steps. Reporters pressed forward, asking about his plans, his feelings, his future. "I just want to go back to school," Malik said simply. That's when Ethan appeared. He broke free from the police transport van with desperate fury, his fake sling discarded, handcuffs somehow loosened, his face twisted with rage as he charged across the courthouse plaza. "You ruined everything!" he screamed, launching himself at Malik with wild haymakers. "I had everything, and you destroyed it." The crowd scattered. Cameras swiveled. Security rushed forward. Malik moved with controlled precision. He caught Ethan's wrist mid-swing, stepped inside the attack, and applied a gentle but immobilizing hold that dropped Ethan to his knees without violence. No punches thrown, no anger displayed, just disciplined technique that neutralized the threat in under 3 seconds. Ethan thrashed helplessly, screaming obscenities that echoed off courthouse walls. Malik held him steady until officers arrived, then released him immediately when commanded. His breathing remained calm. His expression stayed peaceful. "That's enough," Malik said quietly. Police dragged Ethan away, while cameras captured the perfect contrast. One man consumed by rage, another displaying complete control. For the first time, the footage showed Malik exactly as he was. Not dangerous, but disciplined. Not violent, but protective. Not the monster they'd tried to create, but the man he'd always been. Students watching the live stream finally understood the difference between brutality and strength. 3 months later, autumn leaves scattered across the campus courtyard as Malik Turner walked through the same gates where police had once escorted him away in disgrace. Students no longer whispered behind cupped hands or crossed the street to avoid him. Instead, they nodded respectfully. Some even smiled. The public exoneration ceremony was scheduled for noon in the main courtyard, the exact spot where students had once gathered to watch viral footage of his supposed violence. Now, banners hung between oak trees reading "Truth Matters" and "Justice Restored." Malik wore a simple black suit, walking beside Jamal, who had transformed from the frightened freshman into a confident young man with steady eyes and squared shoulders. Behind them, Nina carried her camera equipment, documenting the moment that would close the most important story of her journalism career. "You nervous?" Jamal asked as they approached the temporary stage. "No," Malik replied honestly. "This isn't about me anymore." The crowd was larger than expected. Students filled folding chairs arranged in neat rows. Faculty members who had once avoided eye contact now offered genuine smiles. Local news crews positioned cameras to capture the university's attempt at redemption. University President Dr. Catherine Walsh took the podium first. She had replaced the administration that enabled Preston's corruption, bringing promises of transparency and accountability. "Today, we correct an injustice," Dr. Walsh began, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "Mr. Turner was wrongfully accused, wrongfully suspended, and wrongfully expelled. The university failed him. We failed all students by allowing corruption to flourish in our community." She announced Malik's full reinstatement, with honors standing, complete scholarship restoration, and formal compensation for damages. His academic record would show no suspension, no disciplinary action, only excellence in criminal justice studies. The crowd applauded, but Malik remained still, watching faces instead of focusing on vindication. Justice felt quieter than he'd expected. Jamal stepped to the microphone next. His voice carried new strength as he addressed students who had witnessed his humiliation months earlier. "They targeted me because they thought I was weak," Jamal said. "They thought shame would break me. But shame belongs to people who hurt others for entertainment, not to those who survive it." He spoke about hazing culture, about the courage required to refuse degrading rituals, about choosing dignity over acceptance. Students leaned forward, recognizing truth in his words. When Malik finally approached the podium, the courtyard fell silent. He had prepared no speech, believing actions mattered more than words. "3 months ago, I made a promise to my mother at her grave," Malik said simply. "I promised never to let cruelty turn me into what others expected. Today, I'm keeping that promise differently." He announced his decision to decline multiple professional fighting contracts that had arrived after his story gained national attention. Instead, he would work with Marcus Rivera, a respected MMA trainer who ran programs for at-risk youth. "Violence was never my strength," Malik continued. "Restraint was. Discipline was. Choosing when not to destroy someone. That was the real power." Nina's independent campus channel had become a respected watchdog outlet after her investigation exposed corruption at 3 other universities. Major news networks offered her positions, but she chose to stay independent, believing truth-telling required freedom from corporate influence. The ceremony concluded with handshakes, photographs, and genuine reconciliation. Students who had once feared Malik now approached respectfully, thanking him for showing them what real strength looked like. As the crowd dispersed, Malik walked toward his car with Jamal, Nina, and a sense of completion he hadn't expected. The fight was over. The truth had won. But more importantly, he had discovered his purpose. That evening, Malik stood inside the Riverside Community Center, watching nervous teenagers file into his first self-defense class. The room smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Folding chairs arranged in a circle faced a small raised platform where Malik would teach discipline instead of destruction. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.